Welcome to Soltron. Today I'm just going to do a really quick custom that I've been seeing online where people have just been adding the smoke paint to Inferno. I especially want to do this because when I got this guy, I felt like his red paint just looked very cheap. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just shake up my paint. Yeah, I really don't like the way the red looks. Same thing with the Transmetal 2 Megatron. I think his paint or lack of paint. The red plastic they use just looks very cheap. This reminds me very much of like knockoff plastic, especially his legs. Like these look very bad. So I don't take painting too seriously. So I'm just gonna grab a good amount of paint and then just start brushing it on in no particular order, and hopefully this is going to improve his look. What I'll do is I'll just paint maybe one half of his body and then compare that and see how that looks with the other half. I feel like I'm overdoing it a little bit. So I'm just using a standard flat brush. And I do tend to overpaint, so I'm just going to try to keep it really light. And just move the paint around as much as possible. Make sure it doesn't settle on the raised surfaces. This is actually one of the figures I owned when I was younger. I had a good amount of the Beast Wars figures. I'm really disappointed they didn't use the clear plastic on this guy. I'm guessing just for cost cutting. And I think this red, even though it's very ugly, I think it's really accurate to the CG model. Maybe that's what they were going for, and they wanted to make it look like exactly like he does in the show. So you can see I'm just doing kind of a sloppy job. Just making sure that it gets into especially the detailed places, the places that have like line work, panel lines. I'm not too concerned about covering him with the smoke effect. It's not that as necessary. I think to get the really good effect, you just want it to get basically into the crevices and but you also want it to be on the other surfaces to give it a little bit of gloss as well, because the smoke effect has some gloss built in. And I really don't like these brown legs, so I'm actually going to go over these too and try to make them a little bit more black looking, like the original figure. So I'll go heavy on this because it doesn't really matter that much. It's already brown. It's not going to look burnt if I overdo it. All right, I'm just looking around for parts on this half that I missed. So we'll start doing his abdomen here. And this already has like a lot of brown effect on it, so I definitely don't, or black, so I definitely don't want to overdo it back here. And you can see I'm just using like a good medium-sized brush, just painting it with a broad brush. And then I'm going to plan on going back in with a smaller brush and really hit those panel lined areas. And you definitely want to be very careful back here because this thorax is so, or abdomen is so bumpy that you're going to get a lot of recessing in here. And then there's some ugly plastic right here I definitely want to cover up. And then I noticed when I open this plastic is an eyesore too, so I want to get some in here. And the goal is just to go very, very light, not overdo it, because it's always, you definitely want to do multiple coats, especially with this kind of paint. So don't worry about getting everything all in the first pass. And that's kind of my general painting style these days now anyways. Just go ahead and throw the paint on. When I started painting, I would just glob it all on and try to get everything done in one coat, and that's really no good. Even every coat, I would try to make sure that I didn't miss any spots. And it really doesn't, I don't think it matters that much. It's all right if you miss some spots. That's why you do multiple coats in the first place. Just expect that there's going to be some spots you maybe totally missed. And then that just leaves the little arm behind his arm, or the leg behind his arm. And then I am being careful not to get this in the joints, because this will gum them up pretty bad. It is almost like putting glue or floor polish. And I missed the little bottom abdomen part right here, so we'll just quickly go over that, make sure that I wipe up any overly excessive spots. All right, and that's pretty much all the red spots already. Maybe I should hit his back too, just to make everything a little consistent. I kind of like this purple effect going on. That's pretty cool. And then maybe like a little up here. Probably the only spot I missed was inside the ant head, so I'll have to disengage this without getting paint all over my hands. Yeah, definitely missed some under his head here. So we'll get a little bit under the ant chin, and then my brush is starting to get a little sticky, I'm noticing, so I'm going to have to rinse it out. This is an acrylic paint, so I can just use a little tub of water. I'm really a fan of these little cheap plastic ones now. They just work really well. They clean up pretty good too. They're very good at non-stick. So we'll just give this guy a minute to dry off, and then we'll check out how it looks. All right, so here's how he looks so far. There's not much difference. There's a little bit of depth effect. I do appreciate the gloss on his feet. That does make it look a little less cheap. And then in person, there is a little bit more gray going on. So it actually, to be honest, I think it looks a little bit better in person. So if I was just doing this for camera, I definitely would do a whole other layer on this, but actually in person, there's already some depth and shininess going on, and it is actually more gray than it looks on camera. So I'm actually not going to go do a whole another coat of this, because this actually turned out pretty well. So I hit it with a hair dryer, so he's pretty good to touch at this point. So that's a good trick. If you're painting, you should have a hair dryer on hand to get your multiple layers done. So I'm just going to wet this smaller brush, and then I'm going to go in and redo some of the panel lines, and then I'll probably hit the insect legs one more time, just try to get them closer to a black color that I like. So I'm going to try to hold this guy somewhere I haven't painted him, and then I'm just going to go in, and now I'm going to hit those recessed areas specifically and just try to get them to look a little bit more, put a little bit more contrast. kind of highlighting the differences between the shadowy areas, and that'll give it like a little bit more of a glow effect. So now I'm being like a lot more careful about where I'm driving the paint. And on his feet, there's like a lot of good recessed area in the front. It's going to be very attractive for the paint. And I'm going a little bit heavy with how much paint I put on the brush, because I just want it to flow into place kind of when I touch it even. So that's looking pretty good. So now I'm just going to do the calf, and this calf actually already has a lot of good black going on, so I don't really need to touch it up very much. This one is a little bit more paint shy. And then this, like the back of his leg, doesn't matter that much, but I'll put a little bit here on this little hip spike. And then I kind of noticed I missed some of the ball joint here, so I'll just go ahead and wrap that up a little bit. And then the back of his waist here, and his butt plate. You know that now that I'm doing this with a small brush, this is actually not a bad choice. If you only have a small brush, this isn't too bad for applying either. And then I'm going to start working on those deep lines in his abdomen. So now you can see this is really starting to bring out that texture a little bit better. And I actually don't like the bumpy texture on this ant. I think they went a little bit overboard. And how big his eyes are. I really wish this was more of a authentic looking fire ant. They actually look kind of cute, so maybe that's why they didn't go for that. Oh, is that a line? I can't tell. Well, it is now. And then you can see even just the little bit amount of paint that's still on the brush is doing a really good job filling in these panel lines. Then there's some panel lines back here I noticed that didn't really get much attention on the back of the robot. So I'm going to go ahead and go a little deep with these. The purple is pretty dark, so I'm going to just really go heavy with the smoke here. And maybe put some in here. I don't know what the point of that recess is. And I do want to highlight his little horns, even though fire ants aren't supposed to have horns. So I'll put a little bit under his little horns, just around. Preferably not on the horn itself. And then I forgot to do his antenna, so let's get that done. And then, like I said, with the gray pieces, I'm just going to go super heavy. I don't want to have to paint this. I don't want to have to do a third coat on the gray parts. So that's already looking very black and drippy, so I want to make sure that doesn't drip on anything. And I think I hit everything. Oh, I missed his arm. Okay, so I forgot about his forearm here. It's going to be a little awkward to hold this. Let's see, this is dry. These have really small panel lines, so I have to be a little bit more careful about where I apply. It's just a toy, it doesn't matter that much. And then you're just letting the paint do the work for you and flow into those recesses. And if you overdo it, it's good to have like a little napkin on hand just to wipe up any places that you overdo it, like here. Kind of overdid his cuff a little bit, but you can just also just use the tip of your finger, just clean those up a little bit. And then yeah, I think that pretty much gets it. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with the bigger brush. Oh, I missed this bottom abdomen again. So I'll just really quickly do these little lines. And this looks like it's 1, 2. All right, so I'm gonna just rinse that off. Going with my bigger brush. I don't want that to be too wet. And now I'm just going to really hit these insect legs really hard now and try not to splash the paint anywhere that I don't mean it to go. So not paint too aggressively, otherwise you'll start flicking paint. Okay, so that's pretty saturated. And then I'm going to get his robot hands because I want those to be a little bit more black and glossy. And then his wrist area. All right, and that just leaves this insect leg here. And this last leg. I don't remember if I did it. I don't think so. And then I'm just going to hit him with the hair dryer, and then we'll see if we can even tell the difference. All right, I think I got him. All right, he's pretty dry now, except for the insect legs because I hit it with so much paint, but you can see like a slight difference. And then, yeah, I'm really surprised on his thighs because you can see we got the red plastic here, but in real life, this is very dark. I went kind of crazy on it, so it's surprising that the camera doesn't really pick that up very well. And then we get nice little panel lines happening there. And then I do like the nice glossy plastic here. Does make him look a little bit more insectoid. And then I think this forearm definitely does look better than this one at this point. So I would say it's pretty quick, easy improvement. And you can see we'll look more closely at the abdomen. I'll transform him so we can get a better look. But I think, yeah, even just the little touch up, the one coat actually does improve this guy with the human eye, if not on camera. All right, here we go in amp mode. So this is the painted side. And then here's the unpainted side. He's not going to want to stand up, is he? All right. So unpainted side, painted side. It's really subtle. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend this. It's okay. I think if the red plastic really bothers you, this does actually make it look a little bit more premium. So I'd recommend fixing that up. This is like an unpainted thigh showing up here. But if the red plastic doesn't bother you, you like don't mind how it looks, then I don't know that you should even really bother doing this. And then here's the insect legs that were not painted. And this is the ones that look painted. So I think that's pretty different. So it definitely looks more black. And I do like the gloss effect. And then you can see like the head. So painted, unpainted, painted. Not a huge difference, but it's there in person. The paint definitely settled into like some of his pock marks. And then the abdomen, unpainted. There's not much difference here because there is already a little bit of paint on the abdomen. So you can see like the unpainted side, the painted side. It's not a huge difference. And then just underneath, that somehow helps you. All right, well, let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one.